Level cap, you looking good today. Just got to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I got my hair layered recently.
Oh, nice.
I've got it
Nice. I
at
can
the length
tell.
now where they're layering. I'm like, ooh,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll take a layering.
I got some layering too. You see, you notice? You
I
notice?
do.
Yeah.
It's there's two layers. There's hair and then there's no hair.
There's hair and then there's bald.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I think our hairs look great today. It also looks great depending on your definition of great was that marathon narrative
Yes.
trailer. The narrative trailer looked
It was
quite
good,
nice.
right?
Yeah.
It was very good.
Yeah.
I love a good sci-fi, and it was apparently directed by someone who got like nominated for one of their shorts in Death and Robot, the whatever it's called, those little short Netflix things.
Mhm.
And you could really tell because man, it was really well shot, and the lore and like everything was fantastic. I really liked it.
Yeah, like I would watch a show about that.
Uh-huh.
I would love to play a game about that trailer, Matt.
Yeah.
I don't know if that game will ever exist, but I would love to play a game. I think the big story of this week. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Welcome to Level with me. Hope you guys are enjoying the show. You can always check us out on Patreon below if you want to support the show. But the big story of this gaming podcast this week is Marathon. This is Bungie's kind of maybe do or die IP for the studio to an extent. They've been kind of going downhill with Destiny for a while. They're a legendary studio. I mean, I was playing their games before Halo.
Well, let's. I will say they did. I feel like stick the landing for the final expansion for the game.
Yeah,
maybe I'm wrong. I know it didn't sell as much apparently, according compared to Lightfall. Lightfall was bad, but there was hype behind it. But I do think that they actually made a good ending. So I don't want to say that there's like they've been like falling, like it's a downfall. But I do agree that they're not doing as well because it ended and now everyone's like, peace out. I'm not playing Destiny anymore because that's been 10 years and I'm done. So I do agree in that sense. I just want to say like I don't think that they're doing bad necessarily for everything.
Yeah, also, I didn't read into it, and I was watching a Dado video, and he said that, like, there's more Destiny stuff coming, and he's annoyed that they're not marketing it more because everybody thinks it's over.
That it does kind of give that impression, doesn't it? Yeah.
So that's sort of, I don't know, Destiny, or Bungie needs to get on top of that and make sure that people understand that Destiny's still got content and stuff coming for it.
Right.
But back to Marathon.
Yeah, you are correct. This does feel make or break because, like, Sony spent billions of dollars on Bungie.
Almost and then $4 billion, I think 2 years ago, acquiring the studio. And Sony's been doing nothing but awesome stuff since then. That everybody's bringing up Concord again, saying hey, look remember that $700 million game that turned into nothing? Hopefully Marathon's not going to be that. But we all have to remember that studios are...
Do you think that's fair? Do you think it's going to turn into a Concord situation? Bungie is going to be turning into Concord?
So this is what I was going to say. We got to remember that, like, because it's Bungie, right? Bungie, this legendary studio that's made so many of my favorite games over the years. Even before Halo, I loved Myth and all their other stuff. Great narrative studio. Great at telling stories and creating new worlds and all that stuff. They are as good as their people, and the original people that made all of that stuff, many of them are not at the studio anymore. So one does have to wonder if they were able to retain enough of that talent, if they're able to retain enough of the design team to know that maybe creating an extraction shooter that has, as far as I can tell, no hook to it to make it different.
Other than just being an extraction shooter.
Yeah, is maybe not the best idea. And then to also charge a whatever premium product price is for the game when it's going up against free-to-play titles that are absolutely top of their game right now, or at least dominating the extraction sphere.
It does feel like it's going to be an uphill battle. I just don't think it's going to be a Concord situation. It only got 700 concurrent players on Steam.
Well, nobody was talking about Concord before Concord came out. So already Marathon is doing better than Concord. Like it's not going to, there's no way it could be as bad as Concord.
It's got the name recognition of Bungie. Just that alone will elevate it to at least people trying it. A lot of people. Name
recognition. Everybody on the planet has put in their opinions on the trailer and the gameplay so far. We're all talking about it. It's Bungie's new IP. Their new IPs are huge deals. I think I was listening to Skill Up say that they hadn't really written out the narrative for the game yet, and that they were going to do that in the coming months before launch. I'm like,
I like Skill Up a lot. I have a hard time believing that.
I mean, I think he was just saying, so he went and played it and spoke to the devs, and this was him communicating back what he learned from them.
So they made an entire, they did it for Anthem. You guys remember that where Anthem, they made a trailer and then the developers at the E3 event saw the trailer and they're like, oh, that's the game we're making? Okay. Do you think that they're not doing that for the lore and the story, are they? I mean, it is Bungie. They kind of did it with.
They said they have the framework for it, but they haven't actually written out all the details and stuff. And I can understand that on one side, where you don't want to write out the lore so specifically that it actually limits what you can experiment with gameplay wise. Where if people are like, oh, we'll just create a respawn timer that does this, and you go, oh, wait a minute, in lore you can't do that. You don't want to do that too early on. But also the game's launching in September, so you would expect...
Okay, the reason why I said I was hesitant, and I should trust Skill Up. If he literally talked to the developers, I should trust what he says. But there was that 8-minute video with lore,
but it was vague, right? It was really vague. So you can make that with vague concepts where you say, okay, look, they're on this planet. They're sort of cyborg people that inhabit bodies, and they can respawn after death. And then you kind of have to remind them of who they are, or they kind of lose their identity to an extent or something. Right. So there's some interesting stuff going on there, but not
if I was
very
a dev,
little specific.
I would have not admitted that at all to anyone.
Yeah.
Especially not a journalist.
They might have
the
not.
Case.
You never know what they have permission to say and not say, right?
We don't have the lore. It comes out in September, which is away, but it ain't years away.
Yeah. It's not that far away. And also for narrative writing stuff, I mean, it gives them time, but not a lot of time to play with it,
Also, we are ignoring the fact that it's not going to be a lore-driven game necessarily. It is an extraction shooter. Yep. So at its core, it's just going to be multiplayer. There is going to be some story being told through your gameplay with you fighting these AI bots, which we can segue really nicely. Apparently the bots in it are challenging and fun to go against. So they've got that going for them.
Yeah. So I was writing down everything that I could learn from Skill Up and other content creators who had gotten to play the game and talk about it. And they said the gunplay's good. Bungie knows what they're doing in that department. If you enjoy the gunplay in, say, Destiny or Halo, you're going to get more of that. So it's dialed in and it's fun. You said, the AI are challenging, which is hard to do, frankly. It's really hard to do in a PvE game, and in a way where it's not just make him tanky, right? Don't just
make him tanky or unbelievably accurate so that if you step behind cover, you instantly die.
Those are the two cheap ways of making hard, quote unquote, hard AI.
Harkov, I'm looking at you, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So their AI, and Bungie's always been good at this, especially in the Halo franchise, of having AI that know their cover, move around, flank you, surprise you. So I guess people are getting more of that in Marathon. That's good. That's something that I don't think other extraction shooters would have, but it's a harder thing to market and be this is how we're different. Nuance, right? The visuals are one of those things that I are drawing a hard line. Either you love them or you hate them. I do love the trailer visuals and what we were seeing from the concept art. I was like, this is new and wild and cool. When it's translated into the game experience, it looks incredibly flat.
Super flat, but bright at the same time. It's a weird, there's color, but then there's no color. It's weird.
And it doesn't translate well.
No.
Yeah. So I think like in concept, you could say, oh man, that looks so cool. Our game's going to look awesome. But then in the game, as soon as they played a lot of it in sort of like an overcast environment, and it just felt like there was no shine, or like the materials that they're using just didn't have any punch to them. And so it felt like almost toon shaded and didn't look good. It looked really bland. Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. Cool particle effects, neat animations, interesting building structures and stuff. They've got that going for them, but not enough to be like, dang, look at this game versus Apex Legends, right? Like Apex it looks great too.
They did say that there's going to be a dynamic, I think there's dynamic day night, but that could be wrong. But there is apparently dynamic weather system. So maybe it's because it was foggy. I think the map was something called the Marshes or something. So it's, got a lot of humidity. And so that may be why there's so much fog. But man, I would have loved to have seen brighter colors and a brighter environment, because it was, when we were watching the videos, these content creators, they're literally shooting at like hazy silhouettes of people out in the distance. And I was like, that doesn't look great. It didn't look good. So I like the gameplay that I saw, but the visuals definitely were a sticking point for me.
Yeah. Well, and also from the gameplay, it looked like a competently built shooter. But when anybody enters a market that's so saturated, I don't want to say saturated, but so dominated, right? It's very much dominated by a few specific extraction shooters. And you could even lump Royales into that category because it's kind of similar ideas behind the games. Very hardcore. You drop in, you're killing other players and NPCs potentially. There wasn't any mention of the hook on there. Like, and especially when they were explaining the gameplay in the gameplay reveal trailer, the guy wasn't even like explaining it in a lore related way. It was just like, you have you have this many lives, parties of 3, you spawn in, you can respawn, like you lose all your gear or whatever. And I was like, tell it to me while lore crafting or world building. Do something to make me understand that this isn't just you describing the basic premise for what an extraction shooter is without the hook side to it. It was just, I was kind of blown away that there wasn't an angle, right? It's like they had an angle and then maybe people early on were like, this sucks, don't use this. And then they just cut it and didn't replace it or something.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why you would make it generic.
So there's rumors that there are like really hard, almost like raid-like enemy encounters and stuff like that are going to be really challenging. So you can like unlock a dungeon or something like that. And then other people can come in and try and do it with you or kill you. And it's going to be difficult. So there might be some PvE hooks that make it unique and different and really stand out from competition like Tarkov. But from what it sounded like, it looked like it was just basically a very more casual version of Tarkov, because that's really the only competition out right now for extraction games. Everyone complains.
It looks like Apex very much in terms of its movement and styling. It does,
yeah.
Too.
Yeah. But Apex is a battle royale, and
you don't think there's any crossover there, though? Royale versus extraction to an extent?
No, not well. Maybe a little bit of cross. So battle royales are you're the final team or you're not. That's the win condition, right? Yeah. In an extraction, you kind of decide what your win condition is. I go in, maybe I got some loot, didn't fight anybody, but I'm just someone who likes to go in and get loot. That's what my satisfaction comes from. I'm gonna get out and feel successful. Or you go in and you get maybe like one kill. You maybe didn't get much loot, but you're like, that was the win for me, you know? So you get to set your parameters for a win. And that's kind of what I consider to be more of an extraction shooter. And I feel like that's pretty different from a battle royale.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I just think like kind of the open world, you drop in mechanic to it to an extent, and then you have to get out and at some point, like, it's going to be very intense, like much more intense than your typical game. So in that sense, they cross over a little bit in my mind, the extraction versus royale mechanics. They can be similar to a degree.
They're similar, and I do hear what you're saying because it does resemble Apex. I felt like with its movement more and just the vibe, like just kind of the general vibe of like them moving around and shooting. So I agree in that respect, but it does look like a casual extraction shooter.
Yeah,
and the worry that I have, and I think this is one of the problems that a lot of these extraction shooters have come into, is they've seen the success of Tarkov. They want to make Tarkov, but they want to get rid of the Shroud brought this point up, the friction of Tarkov, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 1,000 different bullets, all the different weapon attachments, no map, no idea of where quests are, nothing to like indicate like, and so they're like, we'll remove all of that friction so that you can get a more streamlined experience, so that you can appeal it to a larger audience, right? And all that sounds fine on paper until people blow through the content, or it doesn't have that same learning curve or that mystique and that realism of like really immersing yourself into it. And then all the people that normally would have stuck around if it was more hardcore have all left, and you're left with something that just feels hollow and shallow and doesn't rise to that same level as something like Tarkov has done, and really is the only one that's been successful with it.
Yeah. So you'd have to make up for it with like lots of content, lots of progression. Mm-hmm. And that does sound like something that Bungie could absolutely handle. They have tons of experience with that. So hopefully that is planned. Like we were mentioning earlier, I don't think there's any way this game can kind of crater like Concord did, because a lot of people are going to try it out. But coming in with a premium cost to get the game versus free, which is what a lot of, not all, but a lot of its competition does, is going to be tough for them. Also, we have Arc Raiders coming out. I forgot what the release date is for Arc Raiders, but
I won't lie, I'm more interested in Arc Raiders than I am in Marathon.
I think most people are. And in fact, Arc Raiders came out where people were like, oh, not another extraction shooter. Then they saw the gameplay and were like, oh, this looks pretty cool, actually. Like, look at these weird robots, this giant ball that rolls around after you. And
I've played it, so maybe that's why. But the little that I played, it's third person, which I know has turned some people off because you can kind of do some third person camera, combat. But it's so like immersive to like sneak around and just have these like robots like clicking at you and beeping, and it feels just very dystopian. It's very immersive. That might change when you play for 10 hours. I don't know, but I agree. So it's going to have some competition with a new extraction shooter that's going to come out relatively soon.
Yeah, relatively soon. And just thinking about my gut reaction to both games once I saw the gameplay was like, oh, Arc Raiders looks pretty cool. The world looks interesting. Like there's a lot of cool nuance and subtlety with sound and visuals that they're really on top of. And then looking at Marathon, like my gut reaction was just like, oh, this looks really kind of like bland and generic. Yeah. Just generic keeps coming up where it's like, it looks just sort of like more bland version of Apex, if that's, I mean, like,
I know I'm the guy who complains about UIs a lot, but when you see the big screen where it showed all of the icons for the money, like the money and everything, I was like, ooh, that doesn't look good. Like it doesn't look good. So, I don't disagree.
Yeah, it's like they took the world art style and were like, let's turn that into UI as well. And it didn't quite translate into UI or something. Maybe it'll look better on like a big old 4K screen, like high res, something. But yeah, I don't know. And from the people who have played it, they keep dancing around. Nobody wants to like put their opinion in because they're like, look, we didn't get to see everything that's being worked on and planned. So we can't give you this is good or this is bad. But almost none of them said anything, were like excited about it or like overly positive.
Some excitement. I did. A little bit.
Yeah, excitement, but it was, I don't know. The few people that I watched were sort of like, I'm going to play this and I'm interested in it. But it wasn't like, oh man, this cool thing
this is
where
the next big thing.
Yeah, nothing specific was called out in terms of what made it cool. So that does concern me a little bit. It doesn't mean that every game has to be like that. And AAA studios have made billions of dollars copying other concepts and doing a more AAA version of those concepts. So maybe that's
literally Blizzard.
Yeah. Yeah. And tons of other AAA studios, it's not just Blizzard, but that is Blizzard's legacy to an extent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing what those other guys did, but just with way more money and doing it better. So maybe that's what Marathon could end up being, right? Is like, this does scratch that itch. Some people brought up that console gamers don't have as many options as PC gamers do in this regard. So maybe it'll be more attractive to the console gaming market.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I think Destiny was huge on consoles and decent on PC, but not as big on PC comparatively. So maybe there's some angles there that we're overlooking. We don't know the market well enough. It's just
a really good point.
More of a gut reaction to seeing the gameplay and being like, I feel very whelmed right now.
I'm excited to try, but I'm also just an insatiable gamer who gets excited about literally anything at this point. So
you're a streamer.
I'm a streamer, and I'm always looking for something new to play. So there is that. Even if it might not be the best, I'll play a 7 out of 10 game any day. Yeah. As apparently I can't even say the word.
Well, speaking of how you're an anomaly, that's a good segue into an interesting study that a firm Newzoo did that showed that gamers aren't spending money as much on new games anymore. They said that
I am the exception to that.
Yeah, I know. You're buying new games and everybody else is like, I'm going to put all my money into this game that came out 6 years ago or something.
Yeah.
Only 28% of gaming money went into new titles last year, according to their data. And the rest, 28%.
Wow.
So that means the rest of it's going into microtransaction type content. I think I don't know all the data, so they might have lumped DLC into new games as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
the rest of it, they said, is going into microtransaction, cosmetic style content for titles that are between 2 and 6 years old on average. Yeah. And so there's a lot of people that sound like they're very kind of monogamous with their gaming. They're like, this is my game. I put all my time and money into it, and that's what I play. So you can see why so many studios are going for these kind of live service concepts like this, right?
Well, I also think it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because on the one hand, there's a lot of effort put into these, obviously, and so people are going to stick around because they've made it a lifestyle game, right? But on the other hand, it's because all these companies are putting all of their effort into making and continuing the game that they've, their live service. So they're not making new games, which would have been making money, and, people would have been buying those new games, right? They're definitely like EA and Ubisoft. I probably have lessened the amount of new games they've made because they've got their live service titles.
Yeah, you're right. And I feel like, self-fulfilling prophecy is an interesting way to describe it. It's like one of those things where now that live service games have proven to be so successful, they are just by their nature taking up a big chunk of the market. And if you want that market, you have to make a live service game to compete with it. And now you're making less other games to compete here. I wouldn't be surprised if we'll see a pullback in terms of like how many new games we're seeing. I still think we're in the wake of the COVID boom of studios making tons and tons of games and pouring money and money. It's like Sony very notoriously poured tons of money into digital products, and then they've been canceling them left, right, and center ever since.
They clearly wanted a live service juggernaut, and they have fallen short in every respect. They tried to do it with Last of Us. Now they had Concord. Now they're trying it for Bungie. Like they're really wanting something, and they're not having much luck. Yeah,
and what not a lot of people know is that Sony canceled tons of non-live service projects that were like years and years into development to put all that money into stuff like Concord, and probably into buying Bungie and keeping Bungie alive and doing everything that they, to support their live service games as well. Yeah. So it is wild how much these companies are willing to throw at the live service pool right now. It's unfortunate that it's such a big pie that they want to do that at the expense of making other fun games that we can enjoy, but maybe not for as long,
I think we'll find an equilibrium where there will always be new companies or companies wanting to make the next big live service title. But I think eventually they'll realize, oh, there's only so much time. There's only so many gamers. And if they're playing all these other live services, we have to do something that distinguishes ourselves from them. Maybe we should just make a normal single player game or a co-op shooter or something, right? Because that, like, we're not going to be able to just carve away a giant chunk of theirs. It's like when people were trying to make the WoW killer, and it's like, oh, if we only got 10% of the WoW player base, we'll be billionaires. It's like, well, getting just 10% is really hard to do. It was impossible, and none of them really were successful. So I think we will find an equilibrium.
Yeah, and also I think too, when you look at these major studios, they don't get excited by a game that makes $20 million. You know, they're like, who cares? You know, it's like Steven's paycheck over there, you know, executive Steven. They want games that are making billions, hundreds and hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. So that's what they're going for. And if you know, executive Matimio is like, hey guys, I came out with this really cool single player game. It made double the cost back. You know, we spent $10 million and it made $20 million. Pretty cool. And they're like, fire Matimio now. Like that's the most boring information I ever heard. Like we could have used that studio to make a game that made $100 million, $500 million. You know, they're just not interested in these smaller titles anymore, which I guess is good for indie devs, but it just makes the AAA world kind of bland to an extent.
And we might see a big, not resurgence, but more expansion of the indie scene with prices of games looking like they're going to become more expensive, $80 if they start to ride what Nintendo's going towards. And then on top of that, indie games might just start filling more of a role in gamers, you know, catalogs. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. In the very least, there's been a lot to shake up the gaming world, which is a good thing, you know. I'm kind of curious to see if just like the general FPS hype wave transitions at some point, because before the FPS like train was like out of control and everybody was playing every sort of FPS game ever, it was like RTS games were like the big thing, you know. I'm just wondering if that's ever going to like switch at some point.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Like MMOs had their time, you know, now they're kind of in the background a little bit more, and you got these big extraction shooters and royale shooters, and I'm like, well, what's the next thing? Is it going to be like
Well,
Farmville?
if you know what it is, let me know, and then I'll make the game and I'll make billions of dollars.
Yeah, I think it's going to be those farm simulators, to be honest. You
That's
know,
it. There we go.
The hardcore ones, though, where you like have to like mix the fuel properly for your tractor.
Yeah, you actually have to go outside, and you have to go to like your local, you know, Ace Hardware, buy the resources.
It'll be like a Pokemon Go thing where you have to go out and farm somebody's like lawn. It
literally just makes you into a farmer. You literally just start farming.
Yeah, I leveled up my shovel. You're like, you've dug a hole, dude. What are you doing? So what have you been playing, Matt? What have you been up to?
I've been playing all sorts of stuff. We got Blueprints, Wildgate, Forever Skies, first Beserker Kazan. What would you like to talk about?
I don't know. I honestly am not really familiar with.
We'll talk about Wildgate because I feel like that one's kind of a neat concept. I think it's made by former Blizzard developers, and it is it's kind of a royale where it's also an extraction, kind of, where you go in as each person has a character and you're on a ship, right? So I think actually kind of Star Citizen a little bit, where you're on a ship, everyone's running around doing their own thing, and you begin with basically nothing. You've got pretty much your standard weapons, nothing really too flashy.
Wait, is everybody on the same ship?
No. Sorry, excuse me. Everyone, there's 5 ships. You spawn with your team on your own ship. Does that make sense?
Got it.
So then it becomes. There's a bunch of, and you spawn randomly around the map. And then you have little places that you can go to kill AI, which will then give you loot. And you can then take that loot back to your ship to then make it more powerful. You can get new weapons. You can get upgrades that will make your ship have better shields or maybe give it more fuel, stuff like that. The end goal is to be the final ship alive or to find a artifact that if you take it and then extract with it, you will win, right?
Okay.
So it is an extraction battle royale, essentially.
Okay.
The cool thing about it is that there is so much intricacy in the gameplay. It's very cartoony, so it looks a little like arcadey and everything, and it is.
Yeah.
But there is shields on the out of the ship. But the shields will break, right? And then it'll open a hole, kind of like destruction, where they can then shoot in and hit the hole. But that means that you can then move your ship so that they have to then hit another part of the shield, right?
Cool.
So like the person who's driving, which I thought was kind of boring. That's one thing I wish that they made a little bit more interesting. But there is some gameplay fundamentals where you then can be like maneuvering your ship so that either you've got all of your cannons firing, or you're like, holy crap, we're really struggling because we're taking too much damage. Then position it so that they're hitting the parts of your shield that is not broken and busted.
Gotcha.
You can board their ship, take them out, shoot them, blow up their like aspects of it. You can shoot and take out their own weapons. You can actually go in and steal their weapons if you're fast enough and do it and they don't know that they're there. Nice. So there's all these different ways for you to interact and take them out in fun ways. And I liked it. What I didn't like about it is that if you're going against a team of coordinated people and you're with a bunch of randoms, you get absolutely destroyed. God. Like, it's not even close.
That is the bane of these games, right? Either you're with a coordinated team or you're with a casual group of dudes, and you're either hardcore in it the whole time and just being like, get those guys, do this, do that, and having a sweat fest, which can be enjoyable, but some people don't enjoy that, which is why they go for the casual route. And then if you go casual, you just get absolutely stomped on.
Yeah. So I got stomped on a lot. Yeah. I was able to win once, which was really fun. The enemy had the artifact and the portal had opened. It takes a long time for the portal to end for you to be able to go through. So it's not like you can just like sneak in, grab the artifact and immediately like leave.
Yeah.
But they were almost to the portal. We were able to take them out, blow up their ship, grab the artifact, get it into our ship while we're also getting bombarded by the final ship, and then like leave. It was a really cool experience. It was really fun. Has some awesome moments. But yeah, when you are going against Giga Chads who are clearly coordinating and communicating, and then your team is silent the entire time when like someone boards and they don't even make a call out like, oh, hey, there's actually a dude in here, and you get a blast in the back, like it sucks. So yeah, I love the premise. It's a really cool premise, but I'm really curious to see if they're going to be able to like maintain a healthy player base, because it is that punishing. But we have other.
It's interesting because I'm looking at this now, and it looks like a few other games that are being worked on right now that have very similar premises. I almost feel bad. It seems like a whole bunch of studios had the exact same idea. But I don't think the other studios are going specifically for royales. And it's kind of when I look at this gameplay, I go, yeah, this could be kind of more fun in like a Sea of Thieves type format versus it forced to be a royale. It's kind of
like Sea of Thieves. Yeah. It is, but it's in space.
Yeah. Well, and also it's an extraction royale where the match ends at a specific win condition, right?
Right.
Where Sea of Thieves, you kind of go in and have an adventure, and you can fight other people. You can try and avoid them. There's no win condition per se. You just kind of play until you get bored or whatever.
Yeah. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah.
One thing I kind of wasn't really too keen on is at the beginning's kind of boring, because I guess you could go out and like look for people and try to take them out, but you basically have to go into these PvE locations and just fight AI. And there's variance to it. There's a fair amount of variance, which is nice, but it's like go in the AI, take them out, then get your loot, and then you can go out and start to PvP, right? There's like there's this beginning part where it's like you got to be efficient with it. And if you're not efficient with it, you're going to be at a disadvantage because another team probably was a bit more efficient. Yeah. And so it just kind of leaves this like, there's this lull at the start that kind of has to build up. And I guess you kind of experience that in like League of Legends, your MOBAs, where the first beginning is kind of slow, but it's still with those games, you're still interacting with other players.
It's like StarCraft, right? It's like the ability to like move your SCs or your, what are they called? Your little harvester SCVs. Guys, SCVs around at like the perfect times, and figured it's like mundane and lame, but at the same time, if you can do it 20% faster than your opponent, like you're at a huge advantage, and then the round is set basically.
Yeah, but in those games, the early game of you setting up your base is like 2 minutes.
Plus there's also scouting happening and all these other things. Yeah,
and then you get into the thick of it. And this, it felt like, good maybe 10 minutes of just kind of getting going. And so I think that might be a little bit of a hurdle that they need to maybe. I don't know how they'd be able to streamline it, but
it's good feedback, and it's one of those challenges that I think games that try to do a bunch of things in one game struggle with, where they go, well, clearly this is the most fun thing, but we've also built these other 2 things that you have to do. So now the other 2 things feel like chores in order to get to the fun thing, Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I'd keep your eye on it.
Yeah.
I thought it was neat.
I hadn't heard about it. I had heard about some of the other games that look similar to it. So now I'm curious about it. It's a little more cartoony than I think the games that I was looking at. But I do like it because I think what's happening right now is a lot of studios are looking, and maybe this isn't the inspiration for a lot of these guys, but I would imagine it is for some of them, is they're looking at Star Citizen and going, what do people most like about Star Citizen? Oh, these amazingly big spaceships that you can crew with your friends and do things together, but you can't really do that in Star Citizen yet because it's still kind of janky and doesn't all work together that well. What if we just make a game that's much smaller in scale and scope than Star Citizen specifically for that experience, and we'll make that experience a little bit more specific, and now we can make that game in 3 to 5 years and deliver something. You're going out of focus.
What the hell?
You're phasing out of
my camera started going crazy. That was weird.
You're phasing out of existence, Matt.
The camera itself doesn't seem to be doing it though. That's what's strange.
Oh, the camera's not doing it? It looks like it's trying to focus on
it is doing the camera. Yeah. What are you doing, camera? What are you doing?
Clean your lens, bro.
Yeah, maybe. That's the reason.
Now I gotta crop you, Matt.
I'll fix it. Don't you worry. Don't you worry about a thing. All right. Maybe it was just too close to the monitor and it was causing it to.
I think.
Hopefully that fixes it.
Yeah, your duct tape and shoelaces might have gotten in front of the lens there. Whatever setup you got there that causes your camera to shift every single time we record.
Shut your goddamn mouth, little kid.
Anyway, I think there's a bunch of games trying to do this kind of Wildgate, micro Star Citizen approach to gaming. And I think it's a smart call. And we'll see which one of them sort of makes it, or maybe multiple of them will do well. Yeah.
The other game that is, I thought, really cool, but not something that most people would probably think of when they think of me, is called Blueprints. Have you heard anything about Blueprints?
Nope. I'm going to Google it.
It is a roguelite puzzle
dating game. Oh, okay. Yeah. Puzzle game.
It's a puzzle game where you go into a house that was left to you by your grandfather, and you need to discover, there's 45 rooms in this house, and you need to discover the 46th room. Ooh. The twist on it is that every day is a new day, and you create the blueprint. Get it? Blueprint.
Is that really the
I feel like that's kind of what he was going for. Maybe I'm looking into it too deeply.
That's
and
tough.
you create a layout that allows you to then maneuver around this mansion in a unique way, discovering secrets, discovering puzzles, trying to decipher what those puzzles are, and then just learn more about this world, learn about this house. It is one of the most unique ideas I've seen.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't gotten it yet because I'm dumb.
Yeah. You explained it, and I'm looking at photos and videos of it, and photos, screen grabs, whatever. And I don't understand any of it. I still don't get it. I kind of get like some of this puzzle moving stuff around.
So it's a roguelike in a way where there are synergies between some of the rooms.
So the layout of the rooms is randomized, I assume, as part of the
randomized.
Yeah.
So you will enter into a door. You'll click on a door.
Yeah.
And it will give you 3 options to choose from. And from those 3 options, you can then try and hopefully go further into the house, right? Sometimes they'll block you off. Like if you get a bathroom, the bathroom is just a dead end. So you would want to put the bathroom in a corner.
Type thing.
Kind of, yeah, in a way. It's not
like
it's not haunted, but sure.
Okay.
It's not actually haunted. No.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there's no horror that I'm aware of. There might be some like kind of freaky things, but not really.
Yeah, well, it has the it kind of looks like a whodunit murder mystery artistic style to a degree. So I was just wondering if that's like part of it in any way. Maybe not.
But it is a really it's a fascinating game where there is like there's a game inside of it where you're needing to use the appropriate blueprints or the right rooms so that you can get further in. The higher you go up north in the house, the more locked doors there will be, and then you're gonna have to use keys. There's also gems that you find. You have to spend those gems on more expensive rooms, right? So there's like a kind of a meta where at the beginning you need to accumulate those resources so that by the end you can keep unlocking more stuff so that you can reach the end. I haven't beaten the game, so I don't know what the end is. I don't know what happens when you complete it.
Oh, really?
All the while,
it's that challenging. That like,
it's tough. And then all the while you are finding clues and hints, and you're deciphering like little puzzles, and those might give you like a permanent upgrade or something.
That's kind of cool. So I think I'm getting it now, and it also seems like the map is sort of a puzzle in itself. Right, like the layout and the route that you go is a little bit of a puzzle, and you have to sort of strategize, and then each room is a puzzle. Now, how do you lose the game?
So you only have so many steps. If you enter into a room, it counts as a step. So every time you go into a room, so if you need to backtrack and go somewhere else, right?
That sucks.
Like let's say you kind of meandered all the way. Well, if you got to go all the way back to that one door that you left, back. That'll take steps. So that's one thing. And other times you can just straight brick it by you entered a door and it turns into a room that you've already been to, right? So you have no way to go north or where you were trying to go, right? You could enter into a room and have a door that requires a key, and you don't have any more keys. So it's like, well, that's it. So yeah, there is a lot of RNG, at least at the beginning. Maybe that RNG will become less prevalent as time goes on.
Okay.
But yeah.
Interesting. So you give it a recommendation?
Yeah, if you're looking for a very unique puzzle game, for sure. But it's not for everybody because it's a puzzle game.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I like that. It's cool to see. It's funny to see roguelike invade every single game genre ever.
Yeah.
You're like puzzle, roguelite. Yeah.
Cool. I think it's the highest rated Metacritic game right now for this year. So
holy smokes.
Holy Toledo's.
What does that mean?
That's what I heard.
Does that mean the most amount of ratings, or just one guy named Steve gave it 100%?
No, like, the reviewers were very glowing with it. Yeah.
I know.
No, people really like it.
One review. It's the highest rated. Cool. Well, that's cool. I'm all for it. Like, man, indie guys, they're making the new stuff. They're making cool ideas, new things. And gosh,
speaking of kind of new things, I played another game called Into the Dead. I play lots of games, Level Cap.
I know you do.
I play lots of games. Into the Dead. Have you hear anything about it?
No. Is this?
You're about to.
This isn't somebody who works in a morgue, is it?
No, it is not.
Okay, good.
Oh God,
another Steam bannable game.
You're saying. Yeah.
I don't know what you play, Matt. Okay, you're into all kinds of things.
So, Into the Dead is a lot like This War of Mine, which I've never played, so I'm only basing that off of what people have told me. But you start off with 2 characters at the very beginning, your survivors, and they'll have 2 positive perks and a negative perk, at least for the most part. So like one of them will be really good at maybe cooking. They don't require as many resources to cook a meal, or they'll make more of a thing, right? Whatever that might be.
And this is first person, looks sort of open worldy type.
No. So it is a side scroller, 2.5D zombie survival game.
Now I know you're thinking. I think I'm looking at Into the Dead 2. Wait, what are you? What
Is
is
it
this
not?
game?
It's called Into the Dead. Into the Dead, Our Darkest Days. What are you looking at?
I don't know. Something that looks like an FPS. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Continue. Continue with your description.
Oh, you're on the Google app. I don't know what that is. Yeah. So, anyways, so it's 2.5D.
Yeah.
And you might be thinking, wait, what the hell is 2.5D, right? So it's gorgeous. The game it looks fantastic. You can only really exist on the one plane, right? So you only go left and right, up and down. And you will be taking advantage of going up and down. But you'll go into a gas station, right? And in the gas station, there'll be zombies that are on your plane and you can fight them. You usually want to go in and try and backstab them or something so that you can be sneaky about it and then not alert everything that is around. The thing is, though, is that there are zombies that are in the background or even the foreground where if you do make noise, they will become alerted and they'll try to
that's
kill
cool.
Yeah. So it makes it adds another layer.
Yeah.
And it makes it much more immersive and freaky because you're entering into like a police precinct and you'll see like zombies that'll like run across the screen in the background. You're like, holy crap, what was that? Right.
Yeah.
And then they'll show up and it's really cool. So
I do like the art style. It looks really neat. And I have a huge appreciation for old school side scroller games to an extent where, or even top down games where things are locked on a singular plane, because it simplifies a lot of the extra stuff you might have to worry about in a big open world expansive game. But if it's done right, you don't really feel like you've lost any of the experience, right? You're not like, and like with this game here, with you saying the zombies are in the background, they come forward into the foreground. You don't feel like, man, I wish I could go back there and do the thing. Yep. You're still getting access to the whole environment that you would want to explore to an extent.
Right. And it does make it feel like you are exploring too. It's really well done. What's cool. So at its core, it's all about survival. You send in one of your characters or multiple of your characters throughout a day, but you only control one at a time into these locations. All of the locations are handcrafted, and there are a lot of them, and they're all unique.
It looks great, man.
Yeah, it is, and each one will have maybe some little thing that will try to catch you off guard, right? Like one time, I jumped on this object, I ran forward, and it plummeted through the floor, right? Made a ton of noise, and then of course all the zombies are like, "What's up, baby?" Right? Yeah. And so you then need to like try and scramble to figure out how to get out of that situation. They usually do it in a way where if you are careful and you're paying attention and you bring the right resources, you'll come out just fine. I only lost like one guy, Joe. Unfortunately, Joe died in both of my playthroughs. Rest in peace, Joe. But I was able to keep every other survivor and I beat the game. So it's not actually, that was one complaint I had, is it was a little bit too easy.
Oh,
you also have a base where you will be building building stations, like your crafting stations, that you can assign your people that you will find along your journey. They can come back and help you, and they will be crafting weapons. They will be maybe resting. There is a system where if they get like really stressed, it becomes problematic, and so they'll have to just rest at your communal station, right? So that's very similar to apparently this War of Mine. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's all about bringing back resources, trying to get better weapons and stuff like that, and then going into bigger and harder locations like a police station or a giant mall, right, where there's tons of zombies and you need to come out alive. It was fun. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I'm just appreciating the art style right now. I'm looking at it all, and I for people who aren't seeing the game or listening, it's like building out a full 3D environment that you would build for any sort of first-person zombie apocalypse game, but then locking the camera to a side scroller. So you've got this incredible background of like vacant alleys and streets and dilapidated cities and even like city skylines in the very far background. And so it gives you this incredible sense of scale and presence. And yet you're still just running left or right on this in a city environment. I like that a lot. When you say the game was too short, is it too short with no replayability? How many hours did you spend?
So it's not too short. I didn't have an issue with how short it was. I thought it was too easy.
Too easy. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, there's a lot of systems where you can, and maybe it's just because I'm a gamer, level cap. Could just be because I'm a gamer.
Yeah.
But there's things in the game to improve your character's morale. And like you can get like booze and alcohol, which is apparently a way that you solve your morale problem, right?
It's a good lesson.
And I didn't really ever need to use that stuff, like ever. I had
you
one person die.
You just don't need it, Matt. You're just better.
I just don't need it. Yeah. I had one person die, unfortunately, but I never really felt this pressing, like, holy crap, we're running out of food, we're running out of bandages, we're running out of any of these resources, because we were just scavenging so efficiently and moving on to different bases and coming out on top. And so it's not a big critique, but it's early access, so they have time to, make changes. But I'd love to see like a hardcore mode where either the zombies maybe hit a little bit harder, or there's a little bit less resources, or I don't know. Something to add a little bit more of a challenge, if you're looking for it.
Well, that sounds like the exact kind of thing that devs look for in early access, where they're like, here's our game with all the features. What do you think of the pacing, the balance, all that stuff? And they go, okay, too easy. Cool.
Because it just seems a little strange that by the end I have like all of these things that I just never used.
Yeah.
Right. Because I just never needed to.
Yeah. Well, and luckily that is a super easy thing to adjust, right? As on the game dev side, it's like, okay, just adjust spawn rates of items, health pools of enemies, whatever. We've got like 80 tools to control the difficulty of this game.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Yeah, I like this. I'm gonna look it up more after the podcast and check it out, because
the way you beat the game is you find little clues in like certain parts of the city. And then those clues will then lead you to a potential way of it's a quarantine, right? So to escape the quarantine.
Okay.
And it's not as like, oh, you found all the clues, go to this one place and then you win. Nope.
Yeah.
It's neat. It was cool. Especially for like clearly more of a AA project. Or an indie project. I don't know how many people are involved, but yeah.
I mean, the visuals are good enough where I'm like, they had to have a medium-sized team. This wouldn't come together with like two guys. You need more than that. But
especially with how many unique areas. Like every place was different. Every place was different.
Yeah, really good art. And I'm looking at it now and I see the world through draw calls, and engine related stats, where I'm like, that's a lot of artwork, and optimizing that much artwork it requires a lot of forethought, and they have to know what they're doing. Like that's usually sort of bigger teams and art directors going, okay, this is how many abandoned cars we can have. You can change the color on them, but we can't have any more than 7, and this is that. And here's your limits for everything. And their environments look so densely packed that I'm like, yeah, they definitely had to plan this out pretty well ahead of time. Otherwise, this would not be running well at all. But it looks great. I assume it ran well.
Yeah, ran decent. Didn't have any problems.
Cool.
Though I am on my new PC level cap.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
You upgrade. What are you on? Upgrade. You on a 40?
5080 with a 9800X 3D. So it's a pretty nice PC. But I figured go nice considering like my old PC is getting a little outdated.
Well, you're not going to buy another computer for another 6 years or so. So
probably,
You may as well get something good. Yeah, the 9800X 3D, that sounds nice.
Mm-hmm.
I did read an article that
don't.
No, don't
you rain on my parade, level cap.
I wasn't going to bring it up because it's far too nerdy, but I find it interesting.
Okay, all right.
So we know the big computer chip makers. We got AMD and we got Intel, and that's basically it if you're building a desktop computer. And Intel has been getting their butts kicked for the past couple of years. They used to just dominate the whole scene, and now AMD's like, hold my beer, we're the best in town, and Intel has not been able to catch up at all. They're investing in like these super long-term plans for like chip development plants and all this stuff, but you're like, yeah, that's a long-term plan. Their latest chip architecture, which people are kind of like praising ideas behind it, I saw an interesting article saying like Intel's gambling on the wrong thing because at least when it comes to video games, because games are becoming much more multi-thread optimized now. It's taken a while, but in general, engines are catering to multi-threading. So that's where if you have, and I know you know this, but just to explain it to the general audience, when you have a whole bunch of cores in your CPU, you can then put all the game's architecture onto the different cores and divvy it up, and now it runs a lot faster. But it's hard to architect for that. And so once they started coming out with multi-threaded chips, they didn't really start running games faster because the chips were all bogged down by their main core architecture, their main thread architecture. And so basically they said games are getting way better at multi-threading, and that Intel designing around multi-threading is going to just bite them in the butt at the end of the day, because games are all just going to start running better on multi-threading, and AMD's killing it with the multi-threading, multi-core stuff. So anyway, nerdy, I know, but I thought it was interesting.
Of course I knew all that. Of course.
Yeah, and your X3D is very future-proof, just the more cores, the better at this point, basically.
That's why I got it.
Yeah. Although it's got that sweet 3D cache technology, that's why they call it the X3D.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Bro, doing all the research for building the PC and everything,
yeah.
I hate the naming schemes for every company. Every company, you suck. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The 800 X569. Like what? Okay. How is that compared to the other, the other one? Jesus Christ.
I hate when I make my news videos. I hate covering tech because I have to read off like hardware names, and it's just like a mouthful every time. It takes me forever to get through just saying a sentence without tripping over my words, because I'm like the X3D 9803X4, and then I listen to it back and I'm like, oh crap, I forgot one of the X's or the S's, and now I have to redo that voiceover because of these stupid product names. Yeah. It is dumb. It's like, cars keep it simple. You got the 2025 Toyota Corolla, that's the year and the name of the car.
And the car.
We don't need anything more than that,
Yeah.
We don't need the X5900 X3D times 12. Just tell me it's the multi-core CPU and the year, and we're good. Okay.
There's just so many different options out there. That's why they have to have but it still makes it tough.
I miss, I haven't bought a graphics card in its graphics card box in a while, but I like the graphics card art. You ever see the GPU box art? It's always like this silly, it looks like what AI art looks like now, basically.
Yes. Actually.
Yeah. Those poor graphic design artists are totally out of a job for making that box
car
art
with flames on it.
Yeah. Or like some digital chick who's like shooting lightning out of her eyes and fingers or something. And you're just like, all right. And then she's like holding a graphics card. Just very silly stuff, and I miss it, man. It's kind of nostalgic. I think I've still got, I keep old motherboard boxes for where you keep like computer parts that you might need someday, but of course never do. I've got some of those with like the metallic printing on them and all that like silliness from back in the day, and now I want to dig it up. I want to look at it.
You'll use it one day. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's
been 20 years, but you'll use it. You will.
Yeah. I there was a GDC talk, and I know GDC was a little while ago, but I just read an article about it because a lot of those talks are in closed doors. You gotta buy a ticket to go see it, and then reporters will write articles about it. And I read that article, and it was about Helldivers 2. I think this was the lead dev or the CEO saying like the game took about 8 years to make. And that was due to really poor planning, basically, which is interesting that they're coming out and admitting that. But if you're giving a talk at GDC, which is what they pay you to come out and do, and you're like, here's some solid advice. He was like, plan for your game, because I guess they thought it was going to be similar enough to the first game, and they had already made the first game that they were like, yeah, we know what we're doing. Let's
be
just
easy.
jump right into production, spending millions upon millions of dollars on a full staff, and then change directions or realize we've made some missteps along the way. It was just like, it was a huge mistake. It took way longer, way more money, and all this stuff. And you're like, dang. So it's a game that might have been able to been developed in 4 or 5 years if they'd planned it correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Made me think about Star Citizen, actually. I was like, a game that is impossible to plan because of their expanding budget. And it's taking forever. Huge surprise.
That's fascinating because I'm glad it turned out well. You would never have thought that it had development issues because it launched in such a great place, and out of nowhere it felt too. So yeah, they did very good.
I know, it's one of those success stories from a potential disaster. It's almost never the case, right? It's like when things are going off the rails and they keep pumping money into stuff and they're like, just another year, just one more year, just one more year. Right. You're like, there's no way this game's going to be successful. But there's a couple fun ones. I mean, No Man's Sky was that as well. The creator, what's his name? Sean Murray or something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
He mortgaged his house to fund the final development of the game. And he's like, he said like, yeah, it worked for me, but do not do that.
Do not do that.
Yeah.
God, like, he got so lucky. Holy crap. I mean, he worked hard at it, right? But
yeah, he just knew in his gut that it was going to be a big game or a good game.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, mortgaging your house to pay your development team for
Nope.
That gives me anxiety, man. Oh my God.
There's a few games that surprise me that have like released actually in a good state that had big development. Do you remember Dead Island 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dead Island 2, they had a trailer for it like a decade ago or more. Yeah. And then we didn't hear anything from it for like half a decade.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, they're like, oh yeah, we made it. Here it is. Like, wait, what? And it was good. It was actually a great game. It was passed around from dev to dev. And then finally by the end, they made it. They made a solid title.
Yeah, it's people complain about development times a lot, and I know I'm more sort of sensitive to it because Star Citizen's got so much flack for how long it's taken, and then I'm realizing how many more games there are that have taken just as long or within that same time span as Star Citizen. You're going, oh my God, like there's a lot of them out there. And I was talking to an indie dev who said like the average game dev time is actually 5 years. Like people think it's like 3 years, but it's like, no, it's like 5 years for most projects, whether you're indie or like big studio, unless that big studio
planning the prep
really got it down and they're not innovating, that's why they kind of have sequels to like, fairly non-innovative game concepts. They can crank it out in 3 years instead of 5, but yeah, it just requires a ton of planning, a ton of research because, when they talk about pre-production and production, it's like pre-production is like building the tools and all the logic and ideas that you need and working out all the problems before you spend millions and millions of dollars building assets that end up being not what is going to work because you're like, turns out we exceeded our shader limit, so now we have to just redesign everything. Whoops. So yeah. You really got to plan it out. It is, I find it fascinating. But it's interesting how development is segmented in those ways where you're like, most of the game gets built in like the last half or the last third of development because the first 2/3 are like just building the tools and doing the research to build the game. And then you're like, well, now it's easy to build because we've got all the stuff,
You made a foundation.
Yeah. I can see the appeal of sequels. You're like, oh, so much cheaper to make a sequel.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I wanted to vent real quickly about a game real fast. Not because I think it's bad. So first Beserker Kazan is like a Souls-like anime game where you play as a big muscly man. And it's great.
Is that from the anime Berserker?
No.
Berserk. Okay. You said big muscly man and Berserker.
Yeah, he's big muscly man. He's voiced by Ben Starr, who is everywhere now. Ben Starr is becoming, dare I say, a star.
Yeah. I'd love this guy looks ridiculous, man.
Oh yeah, you see him? Yeah, it's big. He's big, muscly. He's beautiful, blonde hair. Yeah, and he has giant weapons. The combat, super sick, right? You are fighting they have some awesome bosses that are just like fun and challenging to go against, where you have to weave. There's this giant like Minotaur thing where it will like slam down with one weapon. The other weapon is got on fire on it, so you have to dodge that one. So you parry the first attack, you dodge the second one. So it's like this parry, dodge, parry, dodge. Then it goes for like a counter attack that you yourself can counter. So at the end of it, then you counter him. Dude, it feels amazing when you pull it off. Like it's got this really cool flow to it. So the bosses are great. Yeah, dare I say some of the best bosses I've fought in.
I don't think you've ever described an action sequence from a boss fight pattern before, which I mean, to me, tells me that like you're remembering it really well in an enjoyable way, not sort of like I had to memorize this horrible attack sequence and I hated it. It's like, it was so cool. Yeah.
It's fun. Like it makes you feel like a badass, which, mission accomplished. It does have a world that you have to explore that are little mini levels, right? You go in and you like you would in a Souls game, earlier Souls games, kind of. You'd explore and you find some secrets here and there. This is where I wanted to vent. It is the ugliest goddamn environments I have ever freaking seen in a game of this scale. Do you like brown and gray with a couple red here and there?
I was trying to find more screenshots to get more variety, and I was like,
ugly as sin, bro. Everything looks the same. You're outside. Everything is dead brown, gray trees. Yeah. You go into the castle. Everything's gray stone. You go into the dungeon, guess what? More gray, and everything looks the same.
You know what's funny too is I'm looking at this and I can see the actual like post-processing gradient on the screen. Like they just really, really heavy-handedly color corrected this game. And it's possible that maybe the original art assets were so wildly out of like so not in relationship to each other color wise. Like it was like, there's a green bush and a yellow tree and a blue river. And now our game looks like Pokemon or something. And so the color grading is just really heavy, and it might have been done so heavily to get past some poorly planned art assets or something like that.
I think it was supposed to be an MMO or another game, and then they had to scrap that project and then they made this instead. Yeah. So that would kind of make sense because I love the bosses. Like I truly love the game in that regard. It's so like they're so fun, and even like the normal enemies can be a challenge, and they can be fun too. But I get lost so often in it because everything looks the same. It's all the same color everywhere you go.
You know what's funny? It has no visuals. Elden Ring also has very similar coloring, but they do different stuff to make the environment feel unique, right?
They do use color.
They use like color, but color. It is like when you look at a screenshot or a video, it's kind of muted into the specific color range. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
But this is like, is it that they're using a lot of the same assets and then everything's the exact same color? So
they reuse assets. It's not really the assets that I have the problem with. It's just that there's nothing to like really distinguish between the environments. I also think their level designs can be a little like boring. Like you're this godlike being who can defeat these incredible bosses, right? And then you encounter like you'll see almost the entire level in front of you. But the only thing blocking you is this like 4-foot like ledge or a scaffolding. Yeah, and you're like, okay, obnoxious. So I can't go that way, so I gotta loop around. Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm back to now I'm on the other side. Oh, like so it's just stuff
I'm
like
the hero that will save the world, but I can't get past this white picket fence. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and they do that a lot where you'll loop around and they try to kind of do the whole like, oh, I'm here now, like, oh my God, I can't believe I looped around and now I'm on like an elevated. Yeah, it doesn't work as well, but still recommend it. Yeah, but goddamn, some of the worst, ugliest environments I have ever had the displeasure of exploring.
That's unfortunate. I will say, pulling from some of my experimenting specifically in environmental color grading and design is that initially you want to like create things with fun colors and ideas and all this. And then you go, okay, well, in our game, things that are red generally represent enemy or fire. And now if I make a red house, it's conflicting with that design language. So now we got to get rid of red structures and red signs, and we're going to replace them with these types of things. And then you go, well, now yellow in our environment means this. And so you start like getting rid of certain colors and artistic tools. Yeah. And on top of that, if you have a busy environment with lots of colors, it can distract very quickly from the things that you need to laser focus on. And so you see this in games a lot where the main character or even the enemies or the things that you're meant to interact with adhere to a different color rule set than the rest of the environment. And it can be very tempting to just crush that color palette down for the environment and be like, this color range, the environment's going to be between light blue and dark blue and some blacks and browns and nothing else. And that way, everything else pops out nicely and it gives us this nice thing. But it's hard to do it because if you do it wrong, you've now made a ugly, super same looking environment everywhere. And you've taken all these nice art assets and turned them into like just background stuff that you don't pay attention to at all.
Yeah.
So I think that's a little bit of having not played the game, but just looking at the screenshots and listening to you describe it, it looks like that's a bit of what they're doing. And I feel bad because I'm struggling with it too. I'm not going to say it's an easy thing to do. So, but it's an interesting challenge for sure. And it's why some of a senior environmental artist will get paid the big bucks, I hope, at these studios to do a good job and make the game look good.
Apparently pays off because man, did I notice it.
Yeah.
When it's not well done, at least by my opinion.
Yeah. Hey, and you're not complaining about the UI. So, I mean,
no, UI's fine.
It's going to be environmental art Matimio for the next year or two, I watched a cool movie that I like that I thought was fascinating almost from a documentary standpoint. So the movie is called Last Breath. Not, for the record, not The Last Breath, because when I Googled The Last Breath, another movie...
I saw all this, or at least I saw people talk about it. Yeah.
Have you noticed that like basically, it's like indie movie studios will have like a movie ready to go in any genre, and they'll drop it right when this big movie's coming out, and they'll give it a name that's almost identical. So there's a movie called The Last Breath, and I almost thought it was the movie, and I was like, there's something off about this. This doesn't look like the right movie. They do it intentionally to basically steal views from people who think they're going to watch the big movie.
Dirty.
Yeah, so they've just got like a stockpile of crappy movies ready to go in any genre.
That's naughty.
And then just trick you into watching theirs instead of the main one. So I almost rented the wrong movie, but it's called Last Breath. It's got Woody Harrelson in it. It's about immersion divers, and it's a true story. I had no idea...
you're right. The Last Breath is about this chicken like Jaws. Okay, all right. Okay,
yeah, cool. You could easily think it's like...
They're like the same thing. Yeah, kind of.
They do it intentionally, and it's like, I think they even changed the name of old crappy movies where they're like, just change the name, and now we can change the thumbnail and basically say it's the same movie. It's super dirty. Yeah. Anyway, true story about immersion divers. Now, if you don't know what an immersion diver is, that's fine, because I didn't either till I watched the movie. They're these guys that go down to the bottom of the ocean where we lay internet cables and gas lines and oil lines and whatever we're sending across the bottom of the ocean to other countries. And they fix them and they install them. And they weld them and they adjust gauges and all that and make sure everything's running right? It is
unbelievably dangerous.
The movie starts off and says, this is the most dangerous job in the world.
Yeah, and they're probably right.
Yeah, because I guess they didn't say what the death rate was, but my God, anything goes wrong down there, nobody can help you. So here's the craziest thing about this is like the movie starts off and they're going out, they're getting ready to go off on a job. And these jobs are not like, oh, I'll be out for the weekend type job. It's no. You get on board this boat that's like one of the most high-tech boats I've ever seen. It looks like a mini aircraft carrier. It's got a helipad on it. Then they go inside this like immersion chamber section of the boat. There's a whole area of the boat that is just these giant metal tubes where dive teams go in, and they increase the pressure in these metal tubes over the course of like a week. I'm not even joking. As the boat goes out to its destination where it's going to work. And these guys just get pressurized up to like whatever diving depth they need to work at. So if it's 1,000 feet underwater, they get pressurized up to that. If it's 300 feet, they get pressurized up to that. I don't know if they can work at 1,000, but it said that I think they can do depths of up to 1,000. Freaking crazy.
Wow, that's
right?
crazy. Yeah.
Once they're in these chambers and getting pressurized, if they come outside, they will explode. Like
they'll die.
Their organs
they won't explode, but they'll die. Yeah.
Their organs will burst, basically.
Right. Yeah. It'd be very bad.
So they'll die.
It's the same thing that happens to you when you go all the way down there and then go all the way up really fast.
And so to get out of it, you also then have to depressurize over a very long period of time. Like it can take days and days and days to depressurize. So like,
bro, even just the prep is dangerous. Jesus.
Right? It's like going to space, but not being in space. Like you're in this tube and you can't get out of it. Like, I mean, if you got out, you'd be dead. It'd be like opening an airlock on a space station. Like you're dead. Then when they get to the location, they basically go from these tubes. All the tubes are kind of interconnected to like an inner chamber, which then connects to like this pod. And the pod gets like hoisted by a crane and lowered through a hole in the bottom of the ship. And so the divers are in this pod. They go all the way down to like 300 feet. And then they put on their like crazy underwater suits. And then they like go out and start welding stuff. And they're connected with cables to the pod where they get their air from and all this stuff. So they're dragging like cables behind them as they go. It's like alien and bizarre and creepy. And they can see like 20 feet in front of them because it's so dark and just...
There's no light.
Yeah. Horrific. Like it really is like, I don't know who volunteers for this stuff. I hope the pay is good.
I'm assuming the pay is incredible.
It better be. Because honestly, while they were showing what you have to do to repair cables, I'm like, how come they even decided that this was a thing that they should do? Like, if they said, like, this is how we're going to maintain cables on the bottom of the ocean, I've been like, let's just not put cables on the bottom of the ocean, guys. Let's come up with a different idea.
Let's figure out something else. I don't know what we're going to do, but let's do something different.
Because this is insane. You have to have
What are the divers called again?
Immersion divers. Immersion diving or something. Really cool concept. Obviously the movie is about a specific job that goes wrong and some crazy stuff that happens. I don't want to ruin it because it's a fun journey. And I think the movie is just kind of fascinating in that it's like a look inside of it's almost like a documentary in that like it would just be fascinating to watch a documentary about these types of guys because they are doing the most dangerous job in the world and like a situation where if you break your arm in an immersion tank, you can't get somebody to fix your arm until
I was literally just thinking that. What if someone has a heart attack and they're just like, well, we can't take you out. So
and then you go into the most dangerous environment ever and you can't get like proper medical attention until you've been depressurized. Like pure insanity, right? So
that is nuts.
Yeah. I won't be signing up for that job anytime soon, but I will recommend that movie. Cool movie about an event that occurs that is pretty insane. And they do all the nice things where like at the beginning of the movie, they say true story, all this stuff. And then at the end of the movie, because you have all these questions about like how on earth could this have happened? Then they give you a little text scroll at the end of the movie or like little lines pop up saying like, doctors still don't understand how this occurred. You're like, what? They still don't know. And so it's just wild. Cool to get all the bit of info out of it. So I enjoyed it a lot. I recommend
I'll check it out.
Yeah. It's a good thriller. Put it up on, get some popcorn, sit back, enjoy it.
Enjoy.
You watch anything?
I watched the final couple episodes of Solo Leveling, which is that anime, and it was hype. It was insanity, bro. The second episode 24 was just freaking bananas, man.
Yeah.
It was pure power fantasy, just dudes aura farming, like just sick, man.
I don't know.
It was fun.
Aura farming, is that like the DBZ thing? Where
I don't know. It's like
up?
a a zoomer term. So I'm just making up words at this point. But like, just the main character is so unbelievably overpowered, but at the same time, it's just so fun to watch.
Yeah,
like
it's giving me Dragon Ball Z vibes. When Goku powers 100%. Up to fight one of the guys.
Well, because the entire show is about a character who can level up.
Yeah.
While everyone else cannot level up. They're all baseline, right? And so he's now at the level. This is kind of spoilery. Well, okay, I won't say. So characters that are really strong, that you've established are strong in this world, and then he just comes in and they're like blown away by his power, and you're like, oh yeah, no, that feels that it's a trope. It's a trope, but it works, man.
If you can build that up right, it's very fantastic.
Yeah, where they're like the characters that are supposed to be powerful are struggling, and then he comes in and just starts like absolutely destroying. You're like, yeah, no, that's I'm just inject it straight into my veins. So yeah, it's not art. It is art because like the animation team went freaking bananas on those episodes. Really, really cool animations. Really fun in that respect. But yeah, it's a power fantasy. It's just super, super fun power fantasy.
Those are fun. Yeah. That's that actually reminds me. I did watch a little bit of a Gundam anime on Netflix. Because I'm desperate for good Gundam stuff, and it's sort of like there's so many IPs now where you're like most of the IP is trash, and I feel that way about Gundam, unfortunately. Where the good stuff is really good, but you got to find it. You got to like extract it out of a sea of trash. And I watched a trashier show. It was called like Gundam Vengeance or Requiem or something. I don't know what it was. It's a newer 3D animated one on Netflix. And I was kind of attracted to it because I'm like, yeah, Gundams in 3D would be cool. And nah, I think they're cool. I think they're cool when they're animated, for one. And then on top of that, you've got a bunch of 3D characters that look kind of jank and not that good.
They're getting way better at 3D animation, but this
was low budget. This one felt low budget.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah, and unfortunately Gundam falls into its own tropes, which is like poorly explained bureaucratic reasons for fighting each other, and then just a bunch of soldiers shooting each other. And you're supposed to connect with the meaninglessness of war, but they just set it up so poorly sometimes where you're like, yeah, we're just watching robots fight. Like at this point, like who cares?
It's just an excuse.
Yeah. But I will say, so Mobile Suit Gundam is on Netflix right now, the original show, which I do recommend watching. It's a 70s era anime. So you got to prepare yourself to go back in time to trashier anime quality, but it's a very good show, and it has that same power fantasy where the Gundam is like, there's already mobile suits. There's the Zaku, which the enemy have, or the enemy, it's kind of gray lines in Gundam. But when they develop the Gundam, it's the first of its kind, and he just starts tearing them apart, and they'll like shoot them full of bullets with their guns, and the Gundam just like ricochets all the shots, and it's just like, what was that? And just like cuts him in half with a beam sword, and you're just like, oh yeah, it feels good, man.
It's cool. Yeah. When done well, it works.
Yeah, for sure. And then like every Gundam show since then has basically been almost a parody of that, where they're just like, they understood the premise of like what made it fun to watch, and they're just like, now times it by 100, and then it just gets silliness. But it's good times. Actually, one of the show, I think it's Gundam Wing, maybe, where like they get so silly where the original Gundam, the weapons are semi-based in reality. You've got a beam rifle, you've got kind of a lightsaber-y type sword. They're sort of within a realm of believability.
It's like real life lightsabers, baby.
But at least the beam sword still adheres to all of the rules of like that they established for it. Okay, he's got like a rocket launcher. It shoots a rocket. It blows up a Gundam. Like in Gundam Wing, they start coming out with like whip swords and stuff,
magic,
and you're just like, here's a whip sword, and it like does all this stuff, and you're like, that, why would you even, if you've got a gun, just shoot the guy, and they're like, no, giant robots with whip swords, and it doesn't have any guns because it's good.
You have a lot of, Red Rising has basically whip swords with theirs.
That's true.
So, but they, there's a lot of reasons why they, Dune is a really good example where they have swords because everyone is wearing, not everyone, but a lot of people are wearing this armor where anything with a fast projectile gets deflected and pushed away. So they have to use, so there's an elegance to the combat more because it's a lot easier to convey tension instead of just bang, bang, you're dead, right? So swords are great for a storytelling
if you
device.
can explain it with the technology, which I would argue that Dune does really well, and
they do very well.
Red Rising also does well, where you're like, okay, I believe that this world can exist with duels and sword fighting, right? It's like you've established the rules of it well enough, and then like Gundam doesn't, where a Gundam, and I think Gundam Wing gets like a rifle at one point that can just like blow up a giant colony of like 5 billion people or something. And you're just like,
Christ.
You're just like, wait, so he has a rifle that can do that. But like the entire premise of like several episodes earlier was like them building a super laser from like an entire space station that could do that. You're like, nothing's consistent. It's just like, he's got a gun now that can blow up anything. And you're like, okay, whatever.
Nice.
Just, we're going to explain that? Nope. Okay.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah. It's, the plot armor could not be thicker in those shows. There's like an episode where the enemy find one of the Gundams that that they want to destroy. It's like not being piloted, and they strap explosives to it. And they detonate the explosives, and then it doesn't die, and then the guy gets into the Gundam and like kills everybody. I'm like, at this point,
Jesus Christ.
It's just so literal plot armor. Like
that is the definition of plot armor. Yeah. Why you eliminate all tension at that point?
Yeah.
Are they going to die? No, of course not.
Gundam rant over. But I do recommend Mobile Suit if you're in the mood.
Okay,
it's on. I think it's on Netflix now, which it's been hard to watch in the past for whatever reason. Like they just don't put it on enough streaming services.
Yeah, it's frustrating when all these companies make it impossible to watch their content.
Yeah.
That's why people are setting on the high seas, setting sail.
Oh yeah. Anime in particular is like very much relegated to specific platforms, and you're like, oh, now I gotta subscribe to Crunchyroll or whatever if I want to watch this. Anyway. That's my recommendation. You want to wrap up the old Potteroonie there?
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us for the Level With Me podcast. If you guys want to check out the support link for the show, it's in the description. You can support us on Patreon and then watch us record this live and have a little after podcast show where I talk to Matimio about how cool Formula One is, and he tells me about all of his little hobbies outside of being a YouTuber, which are fascinating, by the way. But you only get to find out if you stick around for the post-podcast show. And Matt is going to leave you with some super useful advice.
Super useful life advice is stop procrastinating. Go do your homework, Steven, or whatever you need to do. Get it done now. Don't wait. Your future self will appreciate you.
You want to know when I filed my taxes, Matt?
Today.
Yeah.
Yep.
Today, baby. My tax guy loves me. I always start my emails with like, hey, it's your favorite client.
God like, damn it.
There's fucking guy.
Yeah. Hey, you got them done though. That's what counts, right?
Yeah. I just have an allergy to paperwork. I'm just like, oh God, I
don't blame you.
They're the worst, man. They're the worst. Like, check this box if, and then you're like, I don't know what that means. I got to look up this definition now. All right.
Yeah. We can have a rant about taxes at the post launch or the post podcast. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care.